My family forged a will to steal my inheritance, so I used a hidden watch to expose them. The will reading was already a circus when my sister Priya smiled like a funeral influencer and my brother Kyle adjusted his mall cop tie like it was a badge. The lawyer cleared his throat and said my name exactly 0 times. Farm, house, coin collection, dignity. Deleted like a typo. I stared at the cheap, dented watch on the desk. It looked like it winked. Grandpa always said, keep a spare plan in your pocket. So I swallowed the lava and smiled. Then the dead watch in my pocket ticked. Once, loud. I stood, cut from the will, and the watch wouldn't shut up. Our broken family portrait. Here's the portrait. Priya, the golden child, arrives everywhere with a laminated itinerary and a ring light. She can turn a condolence card into a brand deal. Kyle, the martyr brother, believes heroic sacrifice means borrowing things forever and sighing loudly about it. And Uncle Leon? Chaos Uncle. He brings brisket to interventions and advice to barbecues, which is the wrong order. Me? I'm the family group chat jester turned designated disappointment. I post memes. I fix the leak. I get blamed when the leak returns with friends. If there's a chore chart, I'm the line item labeled miscellaneous. He wrote those on masking tape and stuck them on everything, including a watermelon once. Grandpa ran a farm that smelled like work and old stories. He had 2 rules. Label your jars. Never trust a handshake at a poker table. The watermelon did not take notes. Priya always needed an audience to help. She'd stand near Grandpa with a camera and whisper, authentic moment, like the vegetables were SAG-AFTRA. She pitched, turning the farm into a rustic wellness retreat. Translation: charge people $300 to sit on hay and cry about gluten. This from a woman who considers mud an attack. Kyle's version of help was grunting while lifting anything with handles, then posting about gratitude and lower back pain. He once borrowed my toolbox and returned it 3 weeks later with motivational stickers but no tools. I opened it and found a single lemon. He said it was symbolic. Of what? Scurvy? Uncle Leon drifted in and out like a helpful raccoon. He'd show up at dawn with brined ribs and leave after lighting half the yard on fire with a chimenea he swore was self-regulating. He wore a fanny pack full of bungee cords and secrets. The subtext was louder than the headlines. We'd fought for years about who actually helped Grandpa and who just performed help for Instagram. Priya had a highlight reel called Earth Daughter. Kyle had a playlist named Man vs. Yard. I had receipts, a bad sense of timing, and genes that remembered every fence I climbed. Flashback to the week before Grandpa died. Hospital room. Beeping machines, fluorescent lights that made everyone look like boiled shrimp. He gripped my hand, slid a watch into my palm, and said, check the seconds, not the hour. He looked so tired it made the floor tilt. I said, okay. He said, promise. I promised. The watch didn't tick. Still, the weight of it felt like a yes. Priya called it junk. Vintage is only cute if it works, she said, arranging peonies on a drip stand. Kyle called dibs on the real assets, which somehow included a tractor and the antique coin collection Grandpa only let me inventory because I actually knew the difference between shiny and valuable. The funeral was chaos with a dress code. Priya planned a tasteful dove release. The doves flew straight to Taco Bell and refused to come back. Kyle tried to herd them with a broom. That footage has 1 million views on an account named Elegance and Grief, not ours. Even in the mess, Grandpa's 2 rules kept blinking in my head. Label your jars. Don't trust a handshake at a poker table. He loved systems nobody asked for, like the time he labeled the refrigerator shelves Tuesday and emotional support condiments. Once, he stuck a note on the remote. Not lost, you are. After the burial, the lawyer summoned us with that nervous, I didn't sleep expression that screams, I did something, please don't ask me what. Rumors floated that there was a new will favoring responsible adults, which in our family means the ones with business cards and a Pinterest board for grief. At the reading, the words felt choreographed by my enemies. My name was scrubbed from the page like I'd been a smudge all along. Farm to Priya and Kyle. House to a trust they controlled. Coin collection to estate liquidation. Uncle Leon got a thank you for your service fruit basket. I got the air. I smiled. It felt like chewing a cactus. Priya looked at me with fake sympathy and real eyeliner. Kyle did the slow shrug of a man who thinks destiny wears his cologne. The lawyer read the signature with the enthusiasm of a man holding a live grenade in a performance review. And then, in my coat pocket, the dead watch clicked. One solitary, arrogant tick. I froze. Priya kept nodding like a bobblehead with an MBA. Kyle leaned back and almost took down a ficus. My heart tapped out Morse code for what? In that moment, I remembered the last time Grandpa caught me lying about breaking his radio. He didn't yell. He handed me the label maker and said, go mark the truth. I labeled the radio, fixed by a liar. He laughed so hard he snorted iced tea. Then he fixed it and put the label back on anyway. I did not make a scene. I put the cactus smile back on and thanked everyone for their clarity. Priya said, "We'll make sure you're supported." Kyle said, "We could use an on-site manager," like he was offering me a tent in my own living room. I said I needed air. Outside, the sky looked like it had also read the will and wanted a word. I took the watch out. Dented case, scuffed glass, a nick on the crown where someone impatient had tried to force it. I whispered, "Check the seconds, not the hour." It didn't tick. Then it did. Another single click, like a wink only I could hear. "Fine, old man. Message received." I put it back in my pocket and walked to the edge of the parking lot, past the dove-handling disaster zone and the lawn sign that said "Celebrate Life" in curly font. Uncle Leon intercepted me with a styrofoam cup and a brisket slider. He said, "You okay?" I said, "I'm labeling this as temporarily." He nodded, like that was English. Behind us, the family posed for a tasteful grief photo. I didn't join. I had a plan to find. Grandpa had taught me to carry a spare, and apparently to listen for the second hand when the hour lied. Inciting incident, the watch that wouldn't tick. 3 days earlier, the hospital smelled like bleach and bargaining. Grandpa's skin was paper over stubborn. He squeezed my hand like he could hold me still and said, "Check the seconds, not the hour." No hello, no grand finale speech. Just that, like a grocery list item that would save my life. Then he slid the watch into my palm. Cold, heavy, dead. I pressed it to my ear. Silence. The kind that makes your own pulse embarrassed. "It's not working," I whispered. He smiled like I'd finally told a decent joke. "Good, you'll listen better." Then his eyes went glassy and he let go. Not like a movie, more like a tired man finishing a job and clocking out 3 minutes early. I sat there holding that silence while the machines tried to be polite about it. Priya floated in with peonies and a voice 2 octaves too bright. "Vintage watch, cute," she said, tapping the dead face like it might wake up for her brand. "But junk. We should catalog the real assets." She meant the house, the land, the coin collection that I knew coin by coin because Grandpa trusted me not to clean silver with toothpaste again. Once, Kyle arrived with a protein shake and ambition. "I call tractors," he announced, like property law was a game of shotgun. He peered at the watch. "Dibs on the Rolex." It wasn't a Rolex. It was a lives in a junk drawer kind of watch, the kind you use to time eggs and arguments. I said nothing. I slipped it into my pocket and nodded at the floor. Back home, I put the watch in the drawer where batteries and expired confidence go to die. Every hour, I took it out and listened. Still dead. I swapped the battery even though I knew better. Nothing. I told myself I didn't care, which is exactly what people say before they rehearse arguments in the shower with perfect comebacks no one will ever hear. The funeral was choreographed chaos, Priya's specialty. The doves made a break for it and found God in a drive-thru. Kyle led a moment of silence that lasted 8 seconds because he remembered something he needed to lift. I carried the watch in my coat like a secret I didn't ask for, warm from my stupid, worried hand. Every time I thought about Grandpa's face, the line hit again. "Check the seconds, not the hour." It rolled around my brain like a marble in a coffee can. When the lawyer's email hit, urgent will reading, the rumor mill spun up like a blender full of gravel. "New will, responsible adults," Priya said, already picturing herself as CEO of Dirt. Kyle texted me a flexing bicep and a tractor emoji. I muted the thread and stared at the watch on my desk. It stared back in that unemotional way metal has, like it knows gravity will do the heavy lifting. At the reading, my name vanished. The assets marched toward people who treated memories like decor, and I learned exactly how loud you can smile. Then, the tick. One insolent click in my pocket. After that, a second click outside by the Celebrate Life sign. Not a rhythm, not a restart, just isolated ticks like a bored metronome smacking my ear to wake me up. Back in my car, I shut the door and the world and held the watch on my knee. "Okay," I said to a circle of glass. "What's your hourly rate?" I pulled the crown. The second hand didn't move. I pushed it back. Nothing. I breathed like a yoga teacher having a quiet meltdown. "Seconds, not the
hour," I repeated, and set the watch on the dashboard. The second hand twitched 1 notch and stopped on the 17. I blinked. I tapped the glass. It didn't budge. I exhaled, shoved it in my pocket, and drove home like every pothole might spell a word. That night, the house was a museum of echoes. I put the watch on the kitchen table and stared while the fridge murmured gossip. I tried winding. No resistance. I tried tilting it under the light. The second hand sat stubborn at 17 like a child pretending to sleep. I laughed, one short bark that didn't sound like me. "Fine," I said. "Be abstract." I should have slept.
Instead, I made eggs I didn't want and Googled vintage watch secondhand stuck and grief makes you dumb. I found forums full of people arguing about escapements like they were religion. I closed them and went back to Grandpa's rule. Seconds, not the hour. The small things, not the headline. The little moves, not the speech. In the morning, Priya sent me a text about healing with intention and a spreadsheet. Kyle asked if I could be property liaison like he was hiring me to manage my own eclipse. I typed no and deleted it. I picked up the watch. Cold again. I held it by my ear. Silence. Then, as the heater kicked on and the house sighed, there it was. One tiny click, like a throat clear. The second hand didn't advance, but the sound landed. I closed my eyes and pictured Grandpa at the kitchen table with his label maker, printing nonsense for the joy of it. He'd tilt his head and listen for the small wrong noise in a good machine. He always caught the small wrong. Check the seconds, he'd say, and point past whatever I was panicking about to the thing hiding in plain sight. I put the watch in my coat. I didn't know why yet. I just knew the hour was lying and the seconds were trying to talk, suspecting the forgery. I went back inside because petty needs fuel and funerals have trays. Priya and Kyle were taking victory selfies by a ficus like it was our family crest. The lawyer hovered near the coffee, stirring nothing. His eyes kept doing tiny sprints to the door, the window, the folder, like guilt had turned his pupils into cardio bunnies. I said, "Quick question about the will's date." Casual voice, crisis brain. "Grandpa signed this on the 12th? He blinked so hard I thought he'd reboot. "That's what the document indicates." "Cool," I said, nodding like a bobblehead with secrets. "Because he was on morphine the 12th. He called me Chief Broccoli and tried to buy a helicopter with a library card. He wasn't signing anything but a nap." Priya swanned over, scarf doing interpretive dance. "Don't start, please. We're all so fragile." "You're wearing heels called litigation," I said. "How fragile can you be?" Kyle squeezed my shoulder like he was juicing it. "Let it go, man." "Totally," I said. "Just curious why the witness section looks like it was signed by a printer having an identity crisis." The lawyer coughed into his fist. "These matters are delicate. Delicate as a soap. This is suspicious." Priya slipped. She always does when she's confident. "The clause about the coins clearly states liquidation is the most rational." I held up a hand. "How do you know there's a clause about coins?" He didn't read any clauses out loud. Her mouth snapped shut so fast I heard her veneers file a complaint. Kyle bumped her with an elbow like a goalie who just watched the ball roll in. Micro story time? Priya once had a fix-it phase. She laminated everything. Photos, a receipt, a goldfish named Benjamin Franklin. We held a small, wrinkled service. She said she was preserving him. I said she was making jerky. The lawyer offered a smile that belonged on a hostage. "Perhaps we should reconvene after I compare Grandpa's signature to something not fake," I said, already pulling my phone. "I've got a photo album called Old Man Scribbles. Birthday cards, notes, the time he labeled the garage shelf, screws, hopes." The signature on the will looked like it paid taxes quarterly and had a preferred airline. Grandpa's real one was loose, like a fence line. This one was tight, like a clenched jaw. The tail on the G curled the wrong way. The pressure pattern was wrong too. No indentation through the page, just uniform darkness like it had been scanned, printed, or traced by someone who thought flourish equals authenticity. Motive math started doing laps. Priya's startup had recently posted a job listing for Chief Hay Vibes Officer. Kyle had an outstanding payment plan with the Lawn Flamingo Company because he'd tried to buy $400 for a statement. Debt, dreams, entitlement, dressed in faux humility. If I didn't call it out, they'd terraform the farm into hashtag content and call it legacy. Ethics did a little tap dance. Do I scorch earth my own family? Yes. Yes, I do. I can regrow trees. I cannot regrow a spine. I drifted toward the dining table where the lawyer had left the original in a leather folder that smelled like performative authority. I leaned in, breathed, and caught a faint tang of toner. Genuine ink has a smell like blood and bookstore. This had office supply aisle vibes. The watch ticked once in my pocket, like a judge clearing his throat. "Seconds, not the hour," I muttered, and flipped the will to check the tiny details. Pagination font didn't match the body text. Footers misaligned. The date was in European format, which Grandpa never used unless he was mocking pretension. My jaw warmed with righteous pettiness. I walked back to Priya and Kyle. "Funny thing about signatures," I said. "Grandpa's G never loops left. This one loops like a figure skater trying to qualify." Priya smiled with only her teeth. "You're embarrassing yourself." "Again?" I said. "Great, I'm consistent." Kyle huffed. "You always think there's a plot." "There is. It's called a will. Yours is fan fiction." The lawyer's knuckles went white around his paper cup. Perhaps we should verify. Love that journey for us, I said. Chain of custody? Witness list? Because I recognize exactly none of these names. Priya rolled her eyes. We used professional services. From where? Craigslist for crimes? I tilted the page. This witness address is a storage facility. Kyle leaned in, squinted, and shrugged like his brain had put up an out-to-lunch sign. Clerical thing. Uh-huh, I said. And the notary stamp looks like it was printed by clip art. The border's aliasing. Priya's voice went icy. You're being cruel. I'm being accurate, I said. Different flavor. I excused myself before my temper built its own annex. In the hallway, I took out the watch and popped it open with my thumbnail, looking for anything. The backplate had micro scratches from years of fidgeting, but underneath, something caught the light. 2 minuscule dots aligned like a colon and an etched whisper I hadn't noticed before because grief is a fog machine. S317. My throat did a small jump. Of course you labeled the inside of a watch, I told the heir. Grandpa had loved hiding keys in boring places. He'd labeled our Christmas stockings footbags. He once etched Feed Cat on the coffee scoop. I pressed the crown. The second hand ticked, snapped back to 17, like a Roomba that refuses to learn a new room. S3, 17. Shelf 3, box 17. The barn archive we'd made as kids out of milk crates and ambition. If I was wrong, I'd eat a hat. If I was right, toast would be served. I slipped the watch back and squared my shoulders. Priya looked over, assessing whether I was going to cry or combust. I smiled. Hey, I said, congrats on your windfall. She blinked, suspicious. Thank you. Just curious, I added, harmless voice activated. Who drafted the will? Professionals, she said again, like it was a spell that turned lies into linen. Great, I said, because professionals love audits. Kyle groaned. You're exhausting. Label me rechargeable, I said. I'm going to the barn. He opened his mouth to ask why. I left before my answer could be turned into content. On the way out, Uncle Leon intercepted me with a Tupperware. You look like a coyote that figured out doors. I'm going treasure hunting, I said. He grinned. Bring a headlamp and plausible deniability. And brisket, I said. He tapped my pocket where the watch sat like a beating joke. Bring him too, I nodded. Seconds, not the hour. Exactly, Leon said. The hour lies like a politician. The seconds will snitch. First clue. Time stopped at 3:17. By the time I hit the barn, the sky had turned the color of a bruise with opinions. The big sliding door groaned like a gossiping ant. Dust lifted and danced in the light, all dramatic for no reason. I flicked on the string of bulb lights we'd strung years ago. Half worked, half were for morale. Shelf 3 was where we kept the important nonsense. Old tax folders, a bowling trophy for most present, a jar literally labeled jar. I counted down, fingers tapping wood like a code. 1, 2, 3. Third shelf. Boxes lined up like bored soldiers. I scanned the masking tape labels, Grandpa's slanted print everywhere, paint rags, manuals we don't read, coupons from 1998. Then, box 17. Someone had written 17, then circled it, then underlined it, which is Grandpa for, if you miss this, we're breaking up. I slid the box out. It exhaled dust and the smell of math tests. The lid stuck for a second like it wanted me to swear first. I obliged. It relented. Inside, an index card stack clipped together, a brass key stamped LL, a Polaroid, and a vibe like a dare. The index card on top had that bossy tape. Stop. Reset to 3:17 to open. Don't look dumb. I laughed, a short, disbelieving cough. You're still micromanaging from beyond? I said, and the rafters pretended not to hear. The Polaroid was Grandpa at the kitchen table, holding this same beat-up watch, finger pointed at the crown like he was teaching a class on patience. He'd written on the margin, "Turn slow, faster is for fools." The man had subtweeted me on film. I fished the watch from my pocket. Cold, familiar, heavy with secrets like a thrift store dictionary. I pinched the crown between nail and thumb, turned until the hands shivered forward, then gently backed it to 3:17. The second hand trembled, settled. For half a breath, nothing happened. Then there was the faintest click inside the case, not loud, more like a micro door deciding I'd said the password correctly. A seam I'd never noticed parted along the edge, thin as a hair, an engineer's smirk. I eased it with my thumbnail. A tiny compartment hinged open, and inside sat a sliver of microfilm coiled like a held breath and a narrow paper strip with neat print. LL221A. The brass key in the box winked from its little nest like it was proud of itself. I stared, then said the obvious to no one. You turned your watch into a spy novel. I could feel him cackling somewhere. I held the microfilm up to the bulb. Tiny lines, darker blocks, not readable like this. But the code? LL221A. LL, the key stamp. The brass felt warm in my palm, like all good ideas do right before they become a story you can't tell to cops. I flipped through the rest of the box. More index cards. If you're here, you're late. Another, bring cookies to Marta. A third with a doodle of a llama and the word, don't be fancy. I knew exactly where LL lived. The Lucky Llama Lounge. Grandpa's haunt. The place with the karaoke machine that only played power ballads and polka. He'd meet his friends there, call it church, and return smelling like laughter and fryer oil. I took a breath that tasted like hay in relief. Stakes lined up like bowling pins. If this was nothing, I'd be the clown who cracked a watch to find trash. If it was something, Priya's scarf would burst into flames, and Kyle would discover the real meaning of liability. I could hear their voices in my head already. You're making drama. You're embarrassing us. You're ruining the vibe. The watch didn't tick, but it hummed with the idea that I wasn't wrong. I slid the microfilm back into its tiny coffin, closed the watch, reset it to 317 because instructions matter, and pocketed the LL key. I tucked the Polaroid into my wallet because I like a talisman that judges me. I put the index card stack back, but not before reading one last scribble at the bottom. If you forget, seconds equals small proof. Hour equals big lie, I whispered. Got it, old man. The barn seemed to nod. A raccoon thumped somewhere in the loft like a union rep changing shifts. On my way out, I ran my hand along shelf 3 like it was a shoulder I'd leaned on my whole life. Priya would call this hoarding. Kyle would call it junk. I called it a filing system that was about to ruin their weekend. Outside, the air had that clean night bite. I texted Uncle Leon one word, Llama? He responded with a thumbs up and a gif of a llama spitting on a sports car. I laughed and unlocked my truck. As I slid behind the wheel, the watch gave one soft, smug tick against my wrist. Time hadn't moved, but everything had.
Barn heist. The archive from our childhood. The barn had that late-night hush that makes every creak sound opinionated. I parked under the busted floodlight that flickered like it owed the power company money, slipped inside, and let the door sigh shut behind me. Shelf 3 waited, smug. Box 17 sat where I'd left it, like a cat pretending it didn't move when you blinked. I set the cigar box on the workbench Grandpa built out of stubbornness and recycled doors. It smelled like sawdust, pencil shavings, and secrets that wear flannel. The brass key stamped LL caught the bulb's glow, throwing a tiny spotlight on itself like an actor who knows the monologue is theirs. The index cards felt stiff with the kind of authority only masking tape can grant. Under the Don't Look Dumb card were more notes. No shortcuts. Ask Marta, she's smarter. And if Priya's reading this, go home. The Polaroid again, Grandpa pointing at the crown. His eyes were smiling like he'd hidden candy in the vegetable drawer. Under the photo, tucked flat, a thinner card hid. Bring quarters. I checked my pockets. I had exactly 2. One had gum fossilized to it. Perfect. I slipped everything into my jacket, reset the watch to 317 because apparently we're respecting ritual now, and took one last scan of the shelf. A dusty jar labeled jar stared back, committed to the bit. I saluted it. It didn't salute back. A thump from the loft. Raccoon Union? Shift change, I whispered. Carry on, and killed the lights. The moon made the barn ribs look like a sleeping whale. Out by the gravel, Uncle Leon's truck rolled up, headlights off like we were teens again, and not 2 people with joint pain and opinions about cholesterol. He climbed out holding a brown paper bag and a flashlight as long as a toddler. He said, Operation, not dumb? Promotion 2, we'll see, I said, lifting the key. He handed me the bag. Brisket slider, emergency pickles, and a Sharpie for labeling your victory. I'll label the napkin devoured. I took a bite, sighed like a man forgiven, and wiped grease on the kind of rag that has been washed exactly never. Leon peered at the watch. Still at 317? It's the only time I trust right now. He nodded once, solemn. Time is a liar. Meat never lies. We drove to the Lucky Llama in convoy like a very small, very hungry heist team. The lounge sits between a tax office and a nail salon, wearing a neon llama whose left ear blinks SOS. Inside, the air was fryer oil and nostalgia. The taxidermy fish over the bar looked like it wanted to unionize with the barn raccoons. Marta glanced up, saw me, and broke into a grin that could end wars. She wiped her hands on a towel that had lived a life. He said you'd show up when the watch stopped pretending, she said. You finally listening?
I'm trainable, I said, and put the key on the bar like a ring in a proposal. LL2291A. She nodded like I'd answered a riddle. He told me, only the one who laughs at bad puns gets it. She handed me a coaster that said, ask me about my Llamaste. I cleared my throat. What do you call a camel that likes meditation? Marta raised an eyebrow. A camel. She stared a second too long, then snorted. He said bad puns, not cursed ones. She jerked her head. Come on. We went through the side door into the back office, which had once been a pantry and still believed. Shelves held liquor, napkins, and a robust collection of lost and found sunglasses. A steel cabinet squatted against the wall, little brass cubbies marching in a grid like obedient soldiers. She pointed at the second row, 21st slot, letter A, stamped tiny on the lip. My key went in, turned with a click that made the hairs on my arm salute. Inside the cubby, a film canister with tape labeled with Grandpa's handwriting, a folded envelope, and a bar receipt stapled to an index card. The receipt had a note from him. Marta witnessed me being stubborn. Again, the envelope was thin but stiff, that expensive paper that makes you stand up straighter. Front read, if you're not you, put this back. I cracked the envelope. Inside, 2 things. A list of names I recognized as our neighbors and the fussiest instructions. Step 1, order a root beer. Step 2, tip Marta. Step 3, use the viewer. Step 4, breathe. Beneath, in smaller writing, and don't tell Priya the llama is a bank. I handed Marta the root beer money and too much tip. She pretended to be insulted, pocketed it anyway, and pulled a portable microfilm viewer from under the desk like it was a toaster. It was yellowed, cracked, and wore a piece of tape that said, don't unplug or it cries. We slid the film into the slot. She killed the overhead light, and the little machine hummed a note that sounded exactly like Grandpa's old radio trying to find baseball. The first frame blinked into focus. Grandpa's face, soft and stubborn, date stamped in the corner 3 weeks after the new will. He cleared his throat, stared into the lens like it owed him money, and said, if you're seeing this, someone got greedy. He held up the watch, tapped the crown. Reset to 3:17 to open. Don't look dumb. He smiled like a man who knew I would, at least once. My throat closed around a laugh and something saltier. The next frame showed him reading an addendum in his own hand, voice steady. He named conditions. He named witnesses, Ms. Klein, old Mr. Alvarez, Marta. He called Priya dramatic, Kyle impatient, Uncle Leon a good bad idea, and me the one who listens past the noise. He finished with, check the seconds, not the hour, and a wink that could cut glass. The machine hummed. Marta breathed out. Well, she said, gentle. Yeah, I said, trying to keep my voice from splintering. Yeah. I wound the film back with care, like it was his hand. The viewer clicked off. The room felt bigger, or maybe I did. I tucked the canister and the envelope into my jacket, reset the watch, habit, superstition, obedience, and turned to Marta. You in? I asked. She grinned sharp. Baby, I was in when he labeled the jukebox therapy. The lucky Llama Lounge reveal. We stepped back into the bar, and the neon llama winked like it knew gossip. Marta slid the canister into a padded pouch and thunked it on the counter in front of me. Guard this like it's your last French fry, she said. People get stupid around fries. People are fries, I said, and my voice steadied because jokes are my life jacket. She tilted her chin toward the end booth. He made me promise to say this line exactly. Ready? She dropped her voice into her best grandpa. You can bluff at cards, not at truth. God, he loves sounding like a fortune cookie with dirt under its nails, I said, and she snorted. I ordered the root beer like the instructions demanded. Marta slid it over with a lime wedge because she respects chaos. I took a gulp and felt 12. Then we opened the envelope fully. Inside was a second sheet, handwritten, bullet-pointed like a man making grocery lists for justice. First bullet, show this to Miss Klein first. She likes banana bread and drama. Second, the lawyer is nervous. Use that. Third, if Priya is in the room, hide the scissors. Fourth, I did my part. Do yours, kid. There was also a photocopy on onion skin paper, pale and elegant, of the handwritten addendum, signed and dated, with a witness list that included Marta's full name spelled right, Ms. Klein, and Mr. Alvarez's shaky signature with his signature doodle of a baseball. In the corner, Grandpa had written, "Make a spectacle if you must." I tapped the page. He literally gave me permission to be annoying. Finally, a permission slip, Marta said. So, what's the plan, besides righteous fireworks? I need a stage and a net, I said. Public enough that they can't spin it. controlled enough that the footage doesn't look like I burst in screaming about vibes. Marta leaned her elbows on the bar. Thursday trivia night gets a crowd and a projector. I can accidentally switch the HDMI. Also, Miss Klein is here every Thursday to defeat teenagers at geography. You're describing a dream, I said. I just need you to pretend it's a slideshow about sustainable garnish. We once hosted a ferret birthday party, she said dryly. We can host truth. I texted Miss Klein. Can you stop by the Llama tomorrow? Banana bread accepted as bribe. She responded with 3 bread emojis and the words, I live for this. I stared at the addendum's conditions, reading aloud so it would be real. Caregiver gets majority stewardship. Liars get counseling reimbursements. Priya gets a mirror. Kyle gets a class on tool ownership. Marta barked a laugh. He didn't come to play. He never did, I said, eyes burning. He taught me poker to stop me from losing at life. I swallowed and scanned the margins. There it was, a list of assets with notes. The farm is a place to live, not strip for parts. The house stays in the family, not in a brochure. The coin collection. Do not sell unless the world ends or we need teeth. Teeth? Marta asked. He had a thing about dental plans, I said. Long story. She tapped the canister. You'll need an expert to verify. Someone who can say, this is his handwriting, his voice, the date stamp is real, and the chain of custody isn't a clown car. Do you keep an expert in the ice machine? She jerked a thumb at the wall. I keep a ledger. He told me to. Every time he came in with paperwork, we logged the date, what it was, who watched him stash it, and who he owed a drink. It's the Llama Bible. She pulled a marbled notebook from beneath the bar. Inside, stuck with tape, were bar receipts, Polaroids, and Marta's small neat script. 3 weeks after the new will date, there it was. G-recorded addendum, read it twice, cried once, tipped like a sinner, stored microfilm in 221A. Witnesses, Marta T., Louise K., R. Alvarez. My heart did a slow cartwheel. Okay. And I have a scanner that emails PDFs, she added. Because I live in the year of our receipts. We made copies. She emailed them to a fresh account I named Seconds Not Hour, because why be subtle? I stared at the screen while the attachments whooshed into the cloud like bottled lightning. Marta set down a napkin and started doodling a crude battle map. Here's how this goes. You gather Miss Klein. You poke the lawyer until he leaks ethics. You file an injunction so Priya can't liberate the tractors. Then you invite everyone to trivia night and let Grandpa do the opening monologue. And if Priya causes a scene? Marta shrugged. Great television. Also, I'll cut her off. I haven't forgiven her. She once tried to order still water shaken. I exhaled tension I'd been hoarding like it accrued interest. I keep thinking I'm gonna mess this up. You won't, she said. You label things. He trained you in weird. Also, you brought me too much tip, which implies character. I laughed. He said only the one who laughs at bad puns gets it. Tell me another, she said. What do you call a cow with a wristwatch? She winced. I'm afraid. Time moo. She groaned into a dish towel. Okay, fine. You're the chosen one. The door jangled. A couple of regulars drifted in. Marta slid back into bartender mode, but her eyes stayed on me like a lighthouse. You're not alone in this, she said, soft. He made sure. I finished the root beer like a toast. The watch rested cool against my skin, stubborn at 3:17, like a compass stuck on north simply because north was right. I tucked the canister into my inner pocket, the copies into another, and pressed my palm flat over the watch face. Seconds, not the hour, I whispered. The neon llama buzzed, as if in agreement. I stepped out into the night, grinning at nothing, the kind of grin that tells you the train is finally on the right track and you're driving it straight through someone's PowerPoint. Gathering receipts. Building the case. Morning hit like a spreadsheet. I called the lawyer first because he smelled like fear and toner. He answered on the second ring with a voice that sounded like it wore slippers to work. I said, we need to talk about clerical surprises. He exhaled a paper bag. I can't discuss client. Good, I said. We'll discuss crime-adjacent fonts. Also, I have your salvation on microfilm. Silence, then a soft, tragic, oh no. We met at a diner where the coffee tasted like tough love. He stared at the formica as if it were a judge. I slid a photocopy of Grandpa's addendum across the table. He touched the edge like it could bite. I was pressured, he said, voice small. Your sister implied I'd lose our family's business if I didn't. Expedite. She called it a modernization. I called it a panic attack. You changed dates. I accepted documents with irregularities. I'm terrified, he whispered. I've never done anything like this. Then help me undo it, I said. Set a formal review. Admit the timeline's off. Keep the originals warm. You get to keep your license. I get to keep my grandfather. He nodded too fast. Immunity? Reputation triage, I said. Do right, loudly. We sketched steps on a napkin because justice loves stationery. He agreed to email me the chain of custody log and schedule a probate review. His hands shook so hard the spoon clicked teacup Morse code. SOS. Next, Miss Klein. I texted. Banana bread currency accepted? She answered by knocking on my door 13 minutes later carrying a loaf the size of a cinder block and eyes that twinkled like she'd been waiting her whole life to testify. She said, I saw him record that addendum. He cried on my cardigan. I kept the stain for spite. I nearly hugged her, and then did. She smelled like cinnamon and justice. We sat at my table. I played the microfilm clip on Marta's scanned file. Miss Klein dabbed her eyes and said, That's his don't argue with me voice. Then she signed a witness statement in handwriting that could slice bread. Digital forensics time. I might be the family clown, but I also Google better than most and know 3 kinds of metadata like their cousins I avoid. Priya's PDF of the will lived in a shared cloud folder I still had access to from an old branding project I did for her when I thought family meant yes. I downloaded the file, cracked it open in a metadata viewer, and there it was, last edited on Priya's tablet at 2:11 a.m., 2 days after the supposed signing, with a device name that read Pripad Pro Maximus, because of course. I said to the ceiling, subtle, screenshots saved, backups made. I printed the metadata page and circled the time with a highlighter like I was grading her soul. Kyle's trail was stickier. He pays people in vibes and Venmo captions. I scrolled his pay history. Buried between thanks for shoulder day and mystery meat raffle, I found. For official stamp thingy, $60 to a user named @NotaryNate. I clicked through. Profile picture, a man in a tuxedo onesie in a bounce.
Bio. Mobile notary birthday party rentals/balloons. I muttered. Ah yes, the Holy Trinity, I messaged. He responded with 8 balloon emojis and a wave. I asked for an invoice copy for accounting. He sent a PDF. The memo read, stamped PDF, no in-person meet, big tip if fast. The timestamp? 3 hours after Priya's late night edit. Receipts, party flavored. I dialed a courthouse clerk I know from fixing their printer one summer. Hypothetically, I said, if someone forged a will, what flavor of form freezes assets? She said, hypothetically, a temporary restraining order and a petition to suspend powers of personal representative, like she'd been waiting to say it to someone she liked. Also, bring donuts. I printed forms until my printer hissed union slogans. I called a probate attorney recommended by Marta's DART team. He answered with, you got witnesses? I have a bartender, a neighbor, a ledger, microfilm, metadata, and a notary in a bounce house. He whistled. That's a narrative. We can work with narrative. We met that afternoon. He wore corduroy that squeaked confidence. I laid everything on his desk. The addendum copies, the witness list, Marta's ledger pages, screenshots of Priya's edits, Kyle's Venmo, Notary Nate's clownery, the lawyer's willingness to repent, and Ms. Klein's statement, still smelling faintly of banana bread. He said, we'll file for an injunction today. We'll notice opposing counsel. We'll request a handwriting expert and an audio analyst. You ready for them to get loud? They've been loud since we were toddlers, I said. I'm fluent. He typed like a man playing a tiny piano. By sunset, the petition was in, the clerk had donuts, and a judge had signed a temporary freeze that essentially told Priya and Kyle, hands off the farm, house, coins, tractors, and any emotional support lawn flamingos. I texted my siblings, family dinner tomorrow at the Llama, my treat. Where honesty, Priya replied with and a calendar invite titled Celebration. Kyle sent a thumbs up and a gif of a tractor doing donuts. I didn't correct him. Donuts were for the clerk. I swung by the Llama with copies for Marta's vault. She slid me a soda and a grin. You've got receipts with sprinkles. Tomorrow, I said, we make it public. She tapped the bar twice, a bartender blessing. I'll warm up the projector. You warm up your punchlines. I went home and labeled a folder. Seconds. Another. Hour. I tucked the watch under my palm and listened. It didn't tick. It didn't have to. Public ambush. The family dinner. I booked the back room at the Lucky Llama, the one with the mural of a llama wearing sunglasses like it knows everyone's business. Marta dimmed the lights to truth-telling at dusk, tested the projector twice, and set out water because chaos dehydrates. I laid place cards. Priya, power scarf. Kyle, cologne cloud. Lawyer, repentant. Miss Klein, banana bread. Me, gremlin with a plan. Priya arrived first,
carrying a gift bag that said "Celebrate Us." She kissed the air near my cheek and whispered, "Such a sweet idea. Closure dinner." Her scarf was doing calculus. "Closure is one way to pronounce evidence," I said, pulling her chair. Kyle swung in behind her, smelling like cedar and apology. "Menu looks weak," he said. "Any protein flights?" "Justice is protein," I said. "It builds character." The lawyer slid into his seat like it might arrest him. He nodded at me, then at his water like he hoped it contained absolution. Ms. Klein came last, wielding a loaf she placed in the center like a sacrament. "For bravery," she said, "and carbs." I stood, raised my glass. "To honesty," I said, "and other myths." Marta killed the music. The projector woke, humming. On the wall, a freeze frame of Grandpa's face blinked into being, date stamp glowing. Priya's smile froze so tight her pores saluted. Kyle squinted like the screen owed him money. Grandpa cleared his throat on screen. "If you're seeing this," he said, "someone tried something stupid." Kyle laughed once, a sound that bounced off his teeth and died. "Okay," he said, "funny bit." "Keep watching," I said, sitting. "The jokes get meaner." Grandpa held up the watch, tapped the crown, said the line I'd been sleeping with. Then he read the addendum. Caregiver stewardship. Counseling reimbursements for liars. "Priya gets a mirror," he added, not smiling. "Kyle gets a class on tool ownership." Ms. Klein clucked, pleased. The lawyer's jaw worked like it was chewing regret. Priya shot to her feet. "This is manipulative," she said. "Deepfakes exist." "Metadata exists too," I said. Remote paused mid-wink. "Your tablet edited the new will 2 days after he supposedly signed it. At 2:11 a.m. on a device named Prepad Pro Maximus, because humility is for peasants." Her mouth opened and closed like she'd swallowed a bee. "That's branding." "Sure," I said. "And Kyle paid a notary who moonlights in a bounce house to stamp a PDF," I added, sliding the printed invoice down the table. Memo line. "No in-person meet. Big tip if fast." Which is not a sentence a legal adult writes when they're feeling honest. Kyle defensive laughed. "It's called efficiency. It's called fraud flavored with helium," I said. Miss Klein stood, shorter than her outrage. "I watched him record this," she said, tapping the projected date. "He cried on me. He smelled like menthol in principle. Sit down, Priya." Priya did not sit. "This is a private family matter," she said to Marta, who was leaning in like it was opera. Marta shrugged. "You booked the party room," she said. "Also, my bar, my HDMI." The lawyer cleared his throat, voice trembling like a bridge. "There are timeline irregularities," he said. "I allowed a process I should not have. I have scheduled a formal review and notified the court of concerns." Priya whirled. "You said it was fine." "I said I was scared," he whispered. I clicked play. Grandpa finished his statement, named witnesses. Marta, Miss Klein, Mr. Alvarez. The projector lit the room with his certainty. He signed in his lazy fence-line script. He looked into the lens. "Check the seconds," he said, "not the hour." The clip ended. The room stayed full of him. Priya tried another angle. "Even if this is real, it's just a draft," she said, smoothing her scarf like it might become a shield. "It's not notarized." Marta snapped the ledger open, pages fat with tape. "Chain of custody," she said, tapping dates and names. "Stored here, witnesses here, ledger here. We run tighter books than your Earth Daughter merch store." Kyle leaned back, chair complaining. "So what? You gonna call the cops on your family?" "I filed an injunction this afternoon," I said, letting the satisfaction stroll across my face. "Assets frozen. No tractors rolling, no coins liquidated, no house listed as rustic retreat with artisanal towels." Priya's face did the kind of math that ends careers. "You can't do that." "I did," I said. "Court date next week. Bring your best scarf." The door to the party room creaked, and Miss Klein stepped forward like a Marvel cameo, holding a manila folder and banana bread like dual weapons. "I also brought photos," she said, fanning Polaroids of Grandpa at the Llama with the microfilm canister, the watch, the date on a newspaper. "And a slice for the judge, if they're nice." Priya's composure finally cracked. "You are all conspiring against me, against us." I smiled, small and sharp. "We're conspiring with the truth. Different vibe," Kyle puffed. "We helped Grandpa. We did the heavy lifting." "You lifted captions," I said. "You lifted props. When the fence fell in January, who was out there at 2 a.m. with a headlamp and a stapler? When the water heater sounded like a demon, who burped it? When he couldn't sleep, who sat and counted raccoons?" Priya hissed. "You're so dramatic." "Projection," I said. "But thanks for the compliment." Marta held up a hand like a traffic cop. Here's the deal, she said. Tomorrow, the lawyer files his mea culpa. The court hears the evidence. Today, you apologize to the person who didn't burn the farm down for a hashtag. Priya's jaw worked. Kyle looked at the table like it was a teleprompter. The lawyer whispered, "I'm sorry," to me, and I believed him more than I wanted to. Priya gathered her purse like it owed her loyalty. "We're leaving." "Great," I said. "On your way out, don't touch the tractors." She stalked toward the door, heels hitting the floor like stamps. Kyle trailed, cologne in tow. At the threshold, I added, "Oh, and one more thing. I labeled the barn cameras live. They are." Kyle flinched, which told me everything about last night's attempted tractor heist. Outside the door, his voice rose, goose-chased and indignant. The hallway speakers obviously were on. I turned back to the room. Ms. Klein slid a slice of banana bread onto my plate like communion. Marta poured me a root beer with a lime wedge, her weird blessing. The lawyer stared at his hands like there might be instructions printed on his palms. I raised my glass again. "To Grandpa," I said. "To seconds. To receipts." The projector screen glowed blank now, but the ghost of his face felt burned in. Somewhere inside my pocket, the watch ticked once, smug and satisfied, like a joke landing. I looked at the lawyer. "Tomorrow," I said. He nodded. "Tomorrow," he echoed, then added with a shaky smile, "and thank you for not making a bigger scene." I grinned. Who says this was the big one? Escalation. They strike back. By sunrise, my phone sounded like a smoke alarm. Priya posted a defamation reel set to wind chimes and a mournful flute. She stood in front of a pompous grass altar, whispering about narratives weaponized by grief and choosing integrity, while captions insisted I was unwell. She ended with hands in prayer and the words, "Let light heal this." Comments were a war between Queen and Girl What. Kyle went analog. At midnight, he tried to move the tractors. He'd forgotten the barn geese formed a paramilitary unit after Grandpa fed them twice daily and told them secrets. I watched the camera feed like a nature documentary. Kyle tiptoed with the stealth of a cymbal crash. The geese formed a V and charged like a tax audit. He screamed, dropped the keys, and sprinted. One goose latched onto his pant leg like an unpaid bill. The comments on the later leak? Poetry. Their lawyer sent a letter so stern it needed a nap, accusing me of public harassment and misappropriating sensitive family materials. Ours responded with a packet thicker than a phone book. Microfilm certification request, witness list, metadata screenshots, and a notarized statement from Notary Nate admitting he stamped for exposure. He included a coupon for balloon arches. I framed it in my mind. Uncle Leon called, whispering like his phone had ears. "If needed, we convene at my place. I'll mediate with brisket and a lie detector." "You don't own a lie detector." "I own a blood pressure cuff and a stern gaze. Same idea." Gossip went feral. Miss Klein texted me a clip of the Taco Bell cashier asking which sibling is the villain. I sent back a shrug emoji and a photo of a goose. She replied with 3 bread emojis and court outfit, spiky. I started packing a go bag because anxiety thinks every day is a road trip. Toothbrush, clean shirt, the watch. It kept up its petty rhythm, not ticking, just offering smug microclicks when something aligned. Email sent, filing accepted, geese victorious. The house felt like it was holding its breath. I labeled boxes I didn't need to move because boxes love identity. Forms. Snacks. Spite. Priya doubled down. She posted a carousel, tearful selfie, screen grab of a cease and desist template, a photo of her holding Grandpa's hat like a hostage. Caption: "Grief can make people cruel. I choose compassion, boundaries, and tractors responsibly." She tagged 3 therapists and a tractor brand. Comments asked, "Why is the hat inside?" Kyle went live from a shed, eyes shining with either tears or cologne vapors. "We took care of him," he insisted. "We lifted things. We were there." His followers spammed flex emojis. A goose honked off camera. He flinched, like the past had bills due. Their lawyer tried a press call. Ours beat him there with an email to the clerk summarizing evidence and requesting an expedited hearing due to ongoing reputational harm via reels with wind chimes. The clerk underlined wind chimes. She is my favorite person. At noon, I got a call from the probate court. "Your petition's on the docket. Next Tuesday, 9 a.m., bring your best eyebrows." The judge's eyebrows have their own jurisdiction. I marked the calendar and immediately worried the ink was too cocky. Marta slid into my messages with a photo of the Llama ledger under lock and key and a text. "We laminated backup copies. Priya can pry." Below it, a selfie of her with a sign that read, "HDMI is a civil right." I laughed long enough to reset my nervous system.
That afternoon, a process server delivered a letter to Priya in a parking lot. She filmed it and added lo-fi beats. Caption: harassment escalates. Pray for peace. In the background, Kyle practiced his defense against Goose with a broom. He lost. Our attorney called. Opposing counsel is threatening sanctions if you continue the smear. Great, I said. I'll continue the truth. Also, he added, handwriting expert confirmed initial look. The will's signature has tremor patterns inconsistent with your grandfather's natural hand and consistent with tracing. Audio analyst says the microfilm's date stamp and ambient sound align with the bar's known jukebox glitch. That glitch died last month. Rip. Off-key Bon Jovi, I said, and only then realized I'd been bracing for doubt. The relief felt like a backpack falling off. That night, I couldn't sit still, so I did a loop of the farm. Fence line tight, garden asleep. The house exhaled wood and ghosts. I stopped at the barn and listened to the quiet hum that's not quiet at all. Mice opinions, rafters gossiping, raccoons negotiating labor. I thought about Grandpa at the kitchen table, tapping the watch, building redundancies because he knew we were human. I went home and cued the microfilm on my laptop again. He looked tired and sharp, the combination I keep seeing in the mirror. He said the line, smiled smaller than before, then the frame wobbled when he adjusted the watch. I laughed at the wobble
and cried into a dish towel because it smelled like lemon oil and mistakes. Priya posted one more thing. A screenshot of a drafted apology in her notes app, 3 paragraphs of, if anyone felt hurt, followed immediately by a poll, should I post? The votes leaned no. She posted anyway with the caption, bravery. Comments were firecrackers. I put my phone face down and spoke to the watch like a lunatic with a plan. We're almost there, I said. You noisy little snitch. It clicked, soft and smug. Fine, I said, wiping my face. Laugh first. Courtroom showdown. The proof lands. The courtroom smelled like wood polish and nerves. The judge's eyebrows walked in before she did. 2 stern hawks that said, try me. I sat at our table with the watch at 3:17. My lawyer in corduroy, Miss Klein, clutching banana bread in a Ziploc like a support animal. Across the aisle, Priya wore a power scarf that might have had a law degree, and Kyle shimmered with cologne like a crime scene. The clerk called the case. My lawyer stood, voice calm as a metronome. Your Honor, we're moving to void a forged will and reinstate a recorded addendum. Chain of custody, handwriting, audio, and digital evidence forthcoming. He gestured to me like I was an exhibit. I nodded like a bobblehead who'd learned restraint. Opposing counsel oozed to their feet. This is a family misunderstanding, not a forgery, they said, using a tone usually reserved for toddlers and raccoons. The judge's eyebrows tilted. Bold claim. Proceed. We started with chain of custody. Marta took the stand in her best button-down that said I bounced drunks and lies. She laid out the lucky Llama ledger, each page a scrapbook of petty truth. Dates, signatures, taped receipts, a Polaroid of Grandpa holding the microfilm like a saint of paperwork. He stored the canister in cubby 221A, she said. Witnesses, me, Miss Klein, Mr. Alvarez. We logged it same day. Opposing counsel tried to sneer. A bar ledger? Marta smiled like a bartender who's seen every kind of mess. The Llama's older than your briefcase, she said. We keep better notes than your Yelp reviewers. Laughter bubbled, died fast under the eyebrows. The judge leaned in. The dates line up, she said, tapping the ledger. Mark it. Miss Klein shuffled to the stand, cardigan starched with purpose. I watched him read the addendum, she said, voice steady. He cried on me. He said, Louise, if they try stupid, make noise. So, I'm making noise. She produced her Polaroids like trading cards. Grandpa with the canister, Grandpa tapping the watch, the wall clock behind him with Tuesday's trivia score. The judge softened by half an eyebrow. Thank you, Miss Klein. Then the forensic document examiner, owl glasses, pocket square, the vibe of a man who could ruin a menu font. He projected side-by-sides, Grandpa's birthday cards, notes with screws, hopes, and the will signature. The genuine hand shows fluidity, he said. Baseline undulates, pressure varies, terminal strokes lift. The question signature has tremor micro-oscillations consistent with tracing, uniform pressure, and atypical left loop on the G. In my opinion, the will signature is not authentic. Opposing counsel tried to nibble. Could illness account? Not for a left loop he never exhibited in 40 samples, the expert said. Surgical? Nor for printer toner embedded in the paper fibers beneath the signature line. He held up a microphoto, toner dots under ink. Even the eyebrows winced. The audio analyst followed, cheerful in a way only waveform people are. He cued the microfilm digitization. We verified the date stamp embedded in the film stock. Ambient audio includes a jukebox glitch, chorus skip on Living on a Prayer, which, per bar maintenance records, persisted until last month. Frequency analysis shows room size consistent with the Llama back office. Voice biometrics match known samples of decedent's voice at a confidence level of 97%. In my opinion, the recording is authentic and contemporaneous. Opposing counsel pivoted to drama. This is a smear. The siblings were caregivers. Grief has made the petitioner vindictive. My lawyer smiled small. Exhibit Tech 3, he said, popping up a screen of Priya's PDF metadata. Device, Prepad Pro Maximus. Last modified, 2:11 a.m., 2 days after the alleged signing. Then Kyle's Venmo, for official stamp thingy to Notary Nate. The courtroom murmured. The eyebrows rose as if to say, explain the balloon man. We put Notary Nate on Zoom. He wore a bow tie and an expression that knew it was Tuesday. Yes, I stamped a PDF, he said. No, I did not witness a signature. They said it was urgent content. I thought it was influencer stuff. I regret. Opposing counsel audibly died inside. You stamped a PDF for exposure, Nate added, then wilted. The judge's eyebrows ascended Mount Olympus. The family lawyer, our trembling friend in loafers, took the stand next. He confessed like a man relieved to be done lying. I accepted irregular documents under pressure and failed to verify witnesses, he said. I have reported myself to the bar and requested a formal review. He looked at me. I'm sorry. My throat did a little quake. I nodded. Priya finally testified, all satin and spin. We were stabilizing the estate, she said. We updated formatting. We were clarifying Grandpa's vision. Did you edit the will document at 2:11 a.m.? My lawyer asked. She did choreography with her scarf. I don't recall. Your device name is in the metadata. That's branding, she said brittle. The eyebrows went. Ma'am. Kyle took the stand and melted into excuses. I just helped, he said. The stamp was efficient. Autocorrect for crimes. He winced at himself. I mean, no crimes. Closing felt like stepping into clean air. My lawyer pointed to the seconds. Every small proof sings the same song, he said. Ledger, film, signatures, metadata. A notary who moonlights with balloons, the hour, the glossy will, lies. Opposing counsel tried one last time. Family disagreements shouldn't become public theater. The judge leaned back, eyebrows at a perfect, devastating angle. They became theater when the script was forged, she said. Gavel up. The court voids the contested will for fraud. The recorded addendum is reinstated, subject to probate formalities. Assets remain frozen pending distribution under the addendum. The matter of potential criminal referral is ordered to the district attorney. Counsel, expect bar contact. The gavel came down with a thunk that sounded like a door locking behind a bad idea. Air rushed out of my lungs like I'd been holding it since the first tick. In my pocket, the watch finally gave a true, steady tick, then another, then silence. It had said enough. I pressed my palm to it and smiled, small and real. Seconds, not the hour. Grandpa, we did it. Aftermath, consequences, and petty triumphs. The week after court felt like someone finally shut off the leaf blower in my skull. Assets froze like a polite winner. Priya's eyebrows calculated damages while her accountant calculated therapy copays. Kyle pled guilty to community service at the Goose Pond, which is karma with feathers. He now wears shin guards in humility, and the geese clock in like union reps with beaks. Grandpa's addendum wasn't a jackpot, it was a job posting. Caregiver stewardship translated to, you don't sell the farm, you feed it. I signed papers with a pen that weighed like truth and walked the fence with a list. Fix the lean posts, reseed the back field, call the well guy who only answers if you say please like a prayer. It wasn't wealth, it was a reminder he trusted me with chores that talk back. Priya repaid debts with the grace of a cat being bathed. She listed handbags, paused her Earth Daughter merch, and posted a Notes app apology in font size 12 that said, if anyone felt harmed, that was not the intention. I replied privately, try, I harmed people, I'm sorry. She left me on read for 2 days, then sent a voice memo where she actually said it. Her voice shook like a chandelier in a small earthquake. I saved it, not to gloat. To remember people can pivot, even in heels. Kyle returned my toolbox, sheepish, with 2 actual tools inside, a hammer and a wrench that hadn't seen CrossFit. I kept the lemon for morale, he said. We stood there like middle schoolers apologizing to the principal. I'm dumb, he added. Not dumb, I said. Lazy with details. Fixable. He nodded like that was a manual. Later, he texted me a photo of a goose sitting on his boot like it had chosen him. He captioned it, "We cool now." I sent back a heart and a honk. I kept the lucky llama cubby as a family archive spot, per my own decree. Marta made space in the cabinet and slid a brass tag under 221A, Family Truths. We put the ledger copies there, a USB with the microfilm scans, and a fresh index card that said, "If you're snooping, bring cookies." Miss Klein ceremonially placed a banana bread recipe in plastic, like a treaty. I took the watch to Grandpa's grave on a Sunday when the sky wore its nice shirt. I leaned the dented case against the stone and said, "We kept time, old man." The grass was too green for grief, so I let myself cry and look silly. A breeze pushed my hair into my mouth like it wanted me quiet. I stood there until the silence felt like company. Back at the Llama, Marta unveiled a new cocktail, the 317 Reset. Lime, ginger, a little burn at the end. "Tastes like receipts," she declared. We toasted with root beers because I'm corny now. Regulars started ordering the Reset and raising their glasses every time the projector flashed the trivia timer at 317. It became a thing. The Llama neon winked approval. Uncle Leon threw a barbecue to celebrate not going to jail. A low bar, a high vibe. He posted rules in label maker font. 1. Don't light anything you can't carry. 2. Tell the truth first. 3. Brisket is a boundary. Priya came with a salad that had edible flowers. And for once, she put down her phone and picked up tongs. Kyle manned the goose perimeter like a bouncer. The geese respected him now. Or maybe they pitied him. Either works. At the farmhouse, I started small. A community garden where the influencer corner would have gone. A workshop organized by labels that would have made Grandpa beam. And a sign over the sink that read, "Not lost. You are." Neighbors drifted in with seeds, advice, and the kind of gossip that keeps a place alive. I learned to say yes to help without pretending I didn't need it. A week later, a delivery showed up from a local engraver prepaid months ago. Inside, a mirror. Heavy, simple, with words etched along the bottom in Grandpa's hand. "Tell the truth first." I texted Priya, "This one's yours." She stared at her reflection for a long time in my kitchen. I watched her face soften like she'd taken off a mask she didn't know she wore. She whispered, "Fine," like a truce. She carried it out like an altar. At night, when the house breathes and the chores sleep, my wrist feels empty where the watch used to live. I keep lifting my hand like I'll find it there, a phantom habit. Then I look at the fence line, the garden beds, the labeled jars that finally mean something. And I hear the seconds anyway, not ticking, just present. Petty triumphs taste good. Geese biting Kyle, a cocktail named for our inside joke. But the quiet win is better. We didn't sell our story for parts. We wrote it down. We filed it. We fed it. We laughed first. Emotional resolution. Rewriting our roles. The week after the barbecue, I stood in the farmhouse doorway with a roll of blue painter's tape and a Sharpie like a priest with sacraments. Old me would have made a joke and let the door hit me on the way back into the same patterns. New me labeled the door. Boundaries. Then I stuck a second label underneath. Knock, don't perform. Petty? Absolutely. Effective? Shockingly. I stepped out of my scapegoat costume like a sweaty mascot head. The new role wasn't hero. It was janitor of truth. Less applause, more mops. I started answering Priya's texts with jokes and limits. "Can I host a wellness pop-up in the garden?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "if wellness means weeding." She sent an eye roll, then showed up in boots and ruined a manicure on purpose. She grumbled like a small engine, but she pulled crabgrass with vengeance. And when she looked up, hair stuck to her forehead, she laughed at herself instead of curating it. That, right there, felt like a weather change. Kyle found a job that suits his attention span and need for whistles. Goose crossing guard. He wears a reflective vest. The geese tolerate him like a weird cousin who always brings snacks. He texts me honk updates, shift change 4 p.m., morale high. I text back, offer them dental. He sends a photo of a goose nibbling his laces with the caption, mentorship. He still lifts things wrong sometimes. He also started returning tools the same day he borrows them. We made him a pegboard labeled with outlines like a kindergarten crime lab. He saluted it like a flag. Uncle Leon hosted another barbecue and printed rules in Grandpa's label font. 1. Ask before you fix. 2. Laugh first. 3. No secret plans, unless they're about cake. He built a long table from old doors and stubbornness, and neighbors brought jars of pickles with names like Ruth's Revenge and Helen's Sorry Not Sorry. Priya stood toasting with lemonade and didn't make it a TED Talk. She said, "I'm trying," with no hashtags. The table didn't clap. It just passed the bread. It felt better than clapping. The farmhouse started telling the right story. I knocked out the influencer corner, the one with faux shiplap and a ring light like a halo that hated you. In its place, I hung pegboards, installed a messy workbench, and put up a chalkboard where people could write what they actually needed. A ride to the clinic, spare screws, a person to hold the ladder. Requests got answered in pencil with names and times. No applause, plenty of solving. In the yard, I laid beds for a community garden. Priya's rows look like she's pitching to a magazine. Mine look like a raccoon diagrammed them. Both grow, which feels like justice. We planted tomatoes with labels that said not yours until red, because theft begins with optimism. Kyle installed a goofy little gate and pretended it was a drawbridge. Kids now demand to be knighted by a zucchini before they weed. I comply. Power corrupts, but it also amuses. The mirror arrived for Priya, heavy and simple, with Grandpa's etched words along the bottom. Tell the truth first. I left it wrapped and told her it was hers if she wanted to open it alone. She took it to the porch, peeled back paper like she was diffusing regret, and stared at herself a long time. The porch boards creaked a confession. She finally said, I wanted to be the hero. I said, same. She nodded. Okay, truth first. She carried the mirror out like it weighed exactly as much as it should. I started writing IOUs in Grandpa's ledger of favors, the one I found under the barn desk with the note laugh first. I flipped to a new page and wrote, Neighbor Tom's fence, one Saturday. Miss Klein's porch, scraping and paint. Marta's jukebox, funeral for Bon Jovi glitch. We hosted a tiny service where we played the song correctly once, then fed it nachos. People cried and laughed. It felt ridiculous and important. The only combo that ever works here. Nights got kinder. The watch was gone from my wrist, but its absence trained my hand to rest on the fence post and listen. I hear seconds everywhere now. The squeak of the gate when it needs oil, the pause before a lie, the breath someone takes when they're about to be brave. I've started catching the small wrongs early and fixing them cheap instead of ignoring them until they invoice me with interest. One afternoon, Priya showed up with a box of Earth Daughter merch she planned to sell for charity. She said, Can I leave this in the barn? I said yes, if the barn says yes. We asked the barn. A raccoon dropped a washer from the loft. We took that as consent. She stacked the boxes in 221B, then labeled them donations, so future us wouldn't call them prop storage. Kyle brought me a coffee mug that said property liaison as a joke. I said, I accept this promotion. He laughed and tapped the watch's phantom spot on my wrist. Still hear him? He asked. All the time, I said. He nodded toward the garden. Then let's make him proud and mildly annoyed. We ended the day at the Llama, where Marta had hung a small brass plate over cubby 221A, Family Truths. She poured 317 resets for everyone and made a terrible toast. May your seconds be loud and your hours behave. We groaned, grateful. The neon llama blinked like a metronome. We laughed first, then we got back to work. The joke, Grandpa left me. A week after the bar toast faded and the geese unionized for better pond time, I was sweeping out the barn office because peace makes me do chores. The push broom hit the underside of Grandpa's old desk and thunked like a book with a secret. I crouched, squinted, and there it was. A crooked label, half peeled, Grandpa's handwriting bossy as ever. Check the seconds, not the hour. Laugh first. I sat on the dusty floor and laughed like a weirdo auditioning for a broom commercial. It wasn't a clue, it was a dare. Laugh first. Right, fine, old man. I looked around at the barn's museum of us. The jar labeled jar, the pegboard with Kyle's tool outlines like chalk around a crime, the boxes Priya had actually labeled donations without glitter. Seconds everywhere, none of them fancy, all of them true. Micro story montage, because my brain files like a sitcom. The doves Priya released at the funeral, they defected to Taco Bell. The manager named them after sauces and built them a tiny condo out back. Miss Klein entered her banana bread in the county fair and wrote in the recipe margin, best served after voiding a forged will. She won a ribbon shaped like a gavel. The geese started lining up at Kyle's whistle like commuters. One of them pecked his laces into a bow. He declared it mentorship. Uncle Leon bought a yard sign that said, honk if you respect due process. The intersection went feral for 3 days. I took Grandpa's ledger of favors out from under the desk and smoothed the cover where his thumb had worn a shine. The first page still said, laugh first, then list. So I listed. I added Miss Klein's porch, done. Marta's jukebox funeral, done. Tom's fence, scheduled. Priya's therapy copay, anonymous deposit, done. Kyle's shin guards, reimbursed with a post-it for Goose arbitration. The ledger felt like a spine I could borrow when mine got tired. I hosted a small thing at the Llama, per ancient custom. No speeches, some nachos, one projector. We ran the microfilm one last time, and the crowd, Regulars, neighbors, the clerk who underlined wind chimes fell quiet in that way that's not silence but agreement. When Grandpa winked, we raised our root beers. When he said check the seconds, we tapped our glasses twice. When the film clicked to an end, Marta killed the lights and the neon llama flickered like applause. People started toasting the 317 reset without me asking. It became a town in-joke. Someone would say, hour, and 3 voices would answer lies. Someone would say, seconds, and 5 people would hold up receipts. I watched grief sit down in a chair and behave. It still lived here, but it stopped throwing plates. I walked home under a sky that looked like it had been kindly edited. The farm wasn't richer. The list of chores hadn't gotten shorter, but the story felt filed, stapled, indexed. I could stop narrating my defense and start narrating my day. I could put the watch down because the seconds had learned to speak without it. The last favor in the ledger is mine. I wrote, teach the next kid where the shelves are. Shelf 3, box 17. Reset to 317. Don't look dumb, laugh first. I tucked the ledger back, pressed the crooked label flat, and whispered, fine, you win, to a man who loved poker and pantry tape with the same intensity. On the way out, I passed the mirror we'd hung for folks to check the grease on their faces and the truth on their tongues. Etched along the bottom in Grandpa's script, tell the truth first. People touched the letters like Braille for courage. I touched them too. My reflection looked like someone I recognized and wasn't embarrassed to know. Before bed, I checked the pegboard, the garden, the porch light with the attitude. Everything where it belonged or on its way. My wrist felt light where the watch used to be. I lifted it anyway, habit and prayer, and heard a goose honk, a screen door click, a neighbor laugh, a text ping from Priya that just said, weeding tomorrow? Seconds, reporting for duty. The hour could file a complaint. I clicked off the lamp and let the house hum. Somewhere outside, the geese debated unions. Somewhere inside, the barn label stuck a little better. Somewhere between them, I finally fell asleep before writing a closing argument in my head. That felt like a joke Grandpa would have loved. It felt like the punchline landing, then getting back to work. The watch lies quiet on Grandpa's headstone, and the farm breathes like it can finally nap while I count seconds that tell the truth. If messy family receipts and hilarious revenge make you feel seen, subscribe and watch the next
Story, where a prenup clause nukes a perfect villain's plan. Send this to the sibling who borrows your stuff and calls it teamwork.